dancing in the light. The remainder of the reception flowed with a renewed energy after Marcus's departure. With the shadow of the past no longer looming over them, Olivia felt herself fully present in each moment, laughing with college friends, dancing with her father, watching Benjamin spin her mother across the dance floor. As midnight approached, the crowd thinned to just the closest friends and family. The band had shifted to slower songs, their melodies drifting through the garden like a gentle breeze. Olivia found herself at the edge of the dance floor, observing the scene with contented exhaustion when Benjamin appeared beside her. "May I have this dance, Mrs. Foster?" he asked, extending his hand. "You may indeed, Mr. Foster," she replied, slipping into his embrace as they moved to the center of the floor. They swayed together in comfortable silence before Olivia spoke. "You know, for someone who claims to hate public speaking, you were remarkably eloquent tonight." Benjamin smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "It's easy to be eloquent when you're speaking from the heart." "What you said up there?" She paused, trying to find the right words. "It was like you articulated things about us, about me, that I've felt but couldn't express." "That's what partnership is," he replied, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Sometimes seeing each other clearly when we can't see ourselves." Olivia rested her head against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "When I left Marcus, I was terrified of disappearing, of becoming so small I'd eventually just fade away completely." "And now?" Benjamin asked softly. "Now I know I was never small. He just made me feel that way." She looked up at him. "With you, I've never had to dim my light." Benjamin's arms tightened around her waist. "Your light is what drew me to you in the first place. The way you talk about spaces and design like you're unlocking the soul of a building. The passion in your eyes when you describe a project. Even the way you stood up to that difficult client who wanted to bulldoze your vision, that quiet, unshakable conviction." The memory made Olivia smile. "You mean when I told the senator his taste in crown molding was aggressively mediocre?" "That's the one," Benjamin laughed. "I think I fell in love with you right then." They continued dancing as the band played their final song of the night. The fairy lights overhead mirrored the stars visible through the oak branches, creating the sensation of floating through a galaxy. "When Marcus was speaking," Olivia confessed, "for a moment I felt myself shrinking again. Like I was back in that place where his reality overwrote mine. And now I realized something important." She stopped dancing and placed her palms against Benjamin's cheeks. "His power was never real. It was just the absence of my own." Benjamin covered her hands with his. "And that's why he showed up tonight. He sensed that you've reclaimed that power, and he needed to try to take it back." "But he couldn't," she said with quiet certainty. "No, he couldn't," Benjamin agreed, bending to kiss her softly. "Some flames can't be extinguished once they've truly ignited." As the last notes of music faded into the night, Olivia and Benjamin remained embraced on the dance floor, bathed in starlight. Around them, their loved ones watched with knowing smiles, witnessing not just the celebration of a wedding, but the triumph of a woman who had walked through darkness and emerged into her own brilliance. And in that moment, surrounded by genuine love and authentic connection, Olivia knew with absolute certainty that this was what beginning truly felt like. Shadows of yesterday. Elena Reyes stared at the empty canvas before her, paintbrush hovering uncertainly. Once, art had flowed from her fingertips like magic, but that was before Marcus had convinced her that her paintings were cute hobbies at best. "You need to focus on supporting my career," he'd told her countless times. "That's where our future is." 3 years of marriage had slowly erased the vibrant woman she'd been. 3 years of subtle criticisms, of being told she was fortunate to have him, of hearing she'd be nothing without his support. Elena had believed him, until the day she found messages to his colleague, mocking her artwork and calling her his burden to bear. That night, she'd packed a single suitcase and left for her friend Olivia's apartment. "I don't know who I am anymore," Elena whispered, curled up on Olivia's sofa 6 months ago. Now, in her tiny studio apartment across town, she was trying to rediscover herself. The divorce had been finalized last month, with Marcus making sure everyone knew how generous he was being, despite her abandonment. Elena's phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. Art Center called. "You got the teaching position." A small smile formed on Elena's lips. The community art center job wasn't prestigious, but it was something that was hers alone. Teaching art to children wasn't what she'd imagined doing with her fine arts degree, but perhaps it could be a new beginning. The following morning, Elena stood before her class of eager children, anxiety fluttering in her chest. "Miss Elena, can you help me?" A small girl with braids tugged at her sleeve, pointing to her watercolor painting. "Of course." Elena knelt beside her. "What would you like help with, Sophia?" "I want to make the sky prettier," Sophia said, her earnest expression melting something inside Elena. "Your sky is already beautiful," Elena said gently. "But let me show you something." As she guided Sophia's hand with the brush, adding subtle layers of blue and purple, Elena felt a moment of peace. Here, no one was judging her worth based on how well she supported someone else's dreams. "It's magical now!" Sophia exclaimed. From across the room, Elena noticed a tall man watching them, his expression thoughtful. Beside him stood two boys who appeared to be twins, around 7 years old, and a slightly older girl. Unlike most parents who dropped their children off, he seemed in no hurry to leave. "That was wonderful," he said when class ended. "The way you spoke to Sophia, you have a gift for teaching." Elena felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you, Mr. Nathaniel. Nathaniel Pearson." He extended his hand. "And these are my children, Lily, Thomas, and James." His gentle smile reached kind eyes that, unlike Marcus's, held no calculation or judgment, just genuine appreciation. "We were wondering," he continued, "if you might consider private lessons. The children lost their mother 2 years ago, and art seems to help them express themselves." As the children looked up at her hopefully, Elena felt something she hadn't in a long time. Possibility. New beginnings. Elena arranged her supplies meticulously on the Pearsons' kitchen table. It had been 3 weeks since she'd agreed to private lessons for Nathaniel's children, and each Saturday afternoon now found her in their warm, spacious home overlooking the city. "Miss Elena!" Lily, the eldest at 9, rushed into the kitchen. "I finished the sketch you asked me to practice." Thomas and James, the 7-year-old twins, tumbled in behind their sister, each eager to show their work. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and Elena found herself genuinely smiling, something that had once been rare. "These are wonderful," she praised, examining each drawing. "You've all improved so much." "That's because you're a good teacher," came Nathaniel's voice from the doorway. He stood there in casual weekend clothes, so different from the crisp business attire he wore when picking the children up from the community center. Unlike Marcus, who had treated her teaching as something quaint but insignificant, Nathaniel spoke of her work with respect. He'd shared how he'd built his technology company from nothing after college, working late nights while caring for an infant Lily after his wife Isabella's first cancer diagnosis. "The children talk about you all week," he said, pouring 2 cups of coffee and offering her one. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, and Elena felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. She quickly turned her attention back to the lesson, guiding the children through a watercolor project. As the weeks passed, these Saturday afternoons became the highlight of Elena's life. Sometimes, after the children were occupied with their art, she and Nathaniel would talk quietly at the kitchen counter. "Why did you stop painting?" he asked one afternoon, gesturing toward her portfolio that she'd brought to show the children. Elena hesitated. "I was told repeatedly that my art wasn't worthwhile." "By your ex-husband?" Nathaniel's voice was gentle but direct. She nodded, surprised by her willingness to share. "Marcus said I should focus on supporting his law career instead. Eventually, I believed him." "That's his loss," Nathaniel said firmly. "Your work is extraordinary." One Saturday, a spring thunderstorm cut the power. While the children played board games by candlelight, Nathaniel invited Elena to stay for dinner. "Dad can't cook," James announced solemnly as they all gathered in the kitchen. "I manage," Nathaniel laughed. "Last time you made pasta, it stuck to the ceiling," Lily giggled. Elena found herself offering to help, and soon they were working side by side, her chopping vegetables while he prepared a simple sauce. There was something intimate about cooking together by candlelight, their occasional touches no longer seeming accidental. "You've changed them," Nathaniel said quietly as they watched the children set the table. "After Isabella died, they were so withdrawn. You've brought color back into their lives." "They've done the same for me," Elena admitted. Later, as she prepared to leave, Nathaniel walked her to the door. "Would you—" he started, then paused. "Would you like to have dinner sometime? Just the two of us?" The old voice in her head, Marcus's voice, whispered that she should be grateful for such attention. But looking at Nathaniel's nervous expression, Elena realized this wasn't about gratitude or obligation. This was about two people who simply enjoyed each other's company. "I'd like that very much," she answered. Standing in the doorway, raindrops sparkling in the porch light, Nathaniel smiled with such genuine warmth that Elena felt something long dormant stir within her. Hope. Blossoming trust summer sunshine streamed through Elena's apartment windows as she applied the final brushstrokes to her canvas. For the first time in years, she was painting for herself again, a portrait of Lily, Thomas, and James playing at the park. 6 months had passed since she'd begun teaching the Pearson children. 4 months since her first date with Nathaniel. In that time, something beautiful had grown between them, something built on mutual respect and understanding. Her phone chimed with a text from Nathaniel. "The gallery owner loved your portfolio. She wants to meet next week." Elena's heart raced. Nathaniel had encouraged her to submit her work to a local gallery, something she would never have done on her own. Marcus's voice in her head had grown fainter, replaced by Nathaniel's steady belief in her abilities. That evening, Elena arrived at Nathaniel's house for their weekly family dinner. These Friday gatherings had become a tradition, with all of them cooking together before settling in for movies or games. "Elena!" The children rushed to greet her, Thomas grabbing her hand to show her his latest Lego creation, while James excitedly recounted his soccer practice. Lily hung back slightly. "I made something for you," she said, offering a small, carefully wrapped package. Inside was a handmade bracelet of colorful beads and a charm that read, "Family. Do you like it?" Lily asked uncertainly. "I love it," Elena whispered, blinking back tears as she fastened it around her wrist. Later, after the children were asleep, Elena and Nathaniel sat on the porch swing, a comfortable silence between them. "Lily's never given anyone her family bracelet before," Nathaniel said softly. "Not since Isabella." Elena leaned her head against his shoulder. "I'm honored." "They love you," he said, then added more quietly, "As do I." The words hung in the air between them. Elena felt her breath catch. "I know it might be too soon," Nathaniel continued, "but I need you to know what we have, what you've brought into our lives. It's precious to me." Elena thought of Marcus, who had always made love feel like something she needed to earn. With Nathaniel, love wasn't transactional but a gift freely given and received. "I love you too," she said, the words coming naturally. "All of you." His kiss was gentle, full of promise. When they parted, Elena saw in his eyes not possession, but partnership. The next morning, Elena woke to a text from Olivia. "You'll never guess who I ran into. Marcus. He asked about you." Elena stared at the message, surprised by her own indifference. Once the mere mention of Marcus would have sent her into a spiral of anxiety. Now he seemed like a distant figure from another life. That afternoon, as she helped the twins with a science project while Lily and Nathaniel prepared snacks in the kitchen, Elena realized she had found something she'd never had with Marcus. Belonging. "Is this right, Elena?" Thomas asked, holding up his part of the project. "Perfect," she assured him, ruffling his hair affectionately. From the kitchen doorway, Nathaniel watched them with a smile that held both love and certainty. "What?" Elena asked, noticing his expression. The invitation, Elena stared at the embossed invitation in her hand, her stomach tightening. The Alumni Achievement Gala at her alma mater was being held next month. honoring distinguished graduates, including Marcus Reyes. Now a partner at his law firm. You don't have to go, Olivia said over coffee. No one would blame you. I know, Elena replied, tracing the edge of the invitation. But I'm tired of avoiding places because of him. Later that evening, as she and Nathaniel walked along the riverfront after dinner, she showed him the invitation. Marcus will be there, she explained, receiving an award. Nathaniel's expression remained neutral. Do you want to attend? Part of me does, she admitted. Not to prove anything to him, but to myself. She paused, gathering her thoughts. For so long I let his opinion define me. Maybe facing him would be the final step in moving beyond that. Nathaniel took her hand, his thumb gently caressing her palm. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. You'd go with me? She asked, remembering how Marcus had always complained about attending her boring academic functions. Of course, he said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The children and I could make a weekend of it. Stay at that hotel with the indoor pool they love. The simplicity of his support brought tears to her eyes. This was what partnership felt like, facing challenges together without keeping score. That night, lying in Nathaniel's arms in his bed that had gradually become theirs, Elena made her decision. I want to go, she whispered against his chest. With all of you. The weeks before the gala passed in a blur. Elena's gallery show opened to positive reviews, with 3 of her paintings selling on opening night. The children insisted on attending, proudly telling visitors, Our Elena painted these. Our Elena. The words warmed her heart in ways she couldn't express. The night before they left for the gala weekend, Nathaniel held her close as they watched the children pack with excitement. Move in with us, he said suddenly. Officially. The children have been asking when you're going to live here all the time. Elena looked up at him, seeing nothing but sincerity in his eyes. Are you sure? She asked. I've never been more certain of anything, he answered. We love you, all of us. As they drove to the university town the following day, the children chattering excitedly in the back seat about the hotel pool, Elena felt a strange sense of peace. Whatever happened at the gala, she was no longer the same woman who had left Marcus with a single suitcase and shattered confidence. They checked into their hotel suite, the children immediately changing for the pool while Nathaniel unpacked their formal clothes for the evening. Nervous? He asked, noticing her quiet reflection by the window. Less than I expected, she replied honestly. Having you all with me makes everything different. He crossed the room, taking her in his arms. Remember, he whispered, you're extraordinary, Elena, with or without me. You always were. As she slipped into her emerald evening gown, a far cry from the muted colors Marcus had always preferred, Elena studied her reflection. The woman looking back at her stood taller, her eyes clearer and more confident than they'd been in years. Nathaniel appeared behind her, handsome in his tuxedo, his gaze appreciative as it met hers in the mirror. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. Elena smiled, thinking of the children waiting with their babysitter and the life she was building. Ready, she confirmed, and meant it. Full circle. The university ballroom glittered with chandeliers and success stories. Elena felt Nathaniel's hand, warm and steady against the small of her back as they moved through the crowd of alumni. Elena Reyes, a woman approached, surprise evident in her voice. I almost didn't recognize you. You look different. It's Elena Cortez again, actually, she corrected gently, using her maiden name. And yes, a lot has changed. As the woman moved away, Nathaniel leaned close. You're turning heads, he murmured. And not just because you're the most beautiful woman here. Elena smiled, about to respond when she saw him. Marcus, holding court among a circle of admirers, his new girlfriend clinging to his arm. The sight no longer hurt, but it did evoke memories of how small she'd felt beside him. That's him? Nathaniel asked, following her gaze. Yes. She took a deep breath. Let's get some champagne before the ceremony. Throughout dinner, Elena could feel Marcus's occasional glances from across the room. When the awards presentations began, she applauded politely as he accepted his recognition, delivering a speech that mentioned his unwavering dedication without acknowledging the people who had supported him. After the ceremony, as they mingled during dessert, the inevitable moment arrived. Marcus approached, his new girlfriend trailing behind him. "Elena," he said, his tone suggesting surprise despite his deliberate approach. "I heard you were here. You look, well, thank you," she replied evenly. "Congratulations on your award." His eyes shifted to Nathaniel, assessing. "And you are?" "Nathaniel Pearson," he introduced himself, shaking Marcus's hand with just enough pressure to establish himself as an equal. "Elena's partner." The flash of calculation in Marcus's eyes was familiar to Elena. He was trying to place Nathaniel, determine his worth in the social hierarchy. "Pearson Technologies," Marcus said finally, recognition dawning. "The security software company?" "Among other ventures," Nathaniel acknowledged without elaboration. Marcus turned back to Elena, his smile not reaching his eyes. "So you've done well for yourself." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Can you come say goodnight? James had a bad dream." Elena showed Nathaniel the message. "The children need me," she said, genuine concern replacing her anxiety about Marcus. "Children?" Marcus couldn't hide his surprise. "Yes," Elena smiled, feeling a surge of love. "We should go to them." As they prepared to leave, Marcus touched her elbow. "I always knew you'd end up with someone successful," he said, his tone suggesting she'd calculated her way to Nathaniel. Elena looked at him, seeing clearly the insecurity behind his arrogance. "I didn't end up with someone successful," she said quietly. "I ended up with someone kind. The success is incidental." In their hotel room, they found all three children piled onto James's bed, the babysitter reading them a story. James's face brightened when he saw Elena. "You came back early," he said sleepily. "Of course we did," she assured him, sitting on the edge of the bed. "You needed us." Later, after the children had fallen asleep, Nathaniel held her close in the adjoining room. "You were magnificent tonight," he murmured against her hair. "It wasn't about showing off," Elena said thoughtfully. "When James needed me, everything else just faded in importance." Nathaniel's fingers intertwined with hers. "That's what real family feels like." In the quiet darkness, Elena felt him shift, reaching for something in his jacket. He placed a small velvet box in her palm. "I've been carrying this for weeks," he admitted, "waiting for the right moment." Elena opened it to find a delicate ring, a sapphire surrounded by smaller diamonds. "The children helped choose it," he said. "Lily insisted on blue to match your favorite painting colors." Tears blurred Elena's vision as Nathaniel continued, his voice tender but certain. "I don't want you to be my wife because you think you should be grateful or because you need me," he said, echoing her deepest fears without knowing it. "I want you to be my wife because we're better together, but complete apart." Elena looked from the ring to the man offering it, then toward the room where the children slept. "Yes," she whispered, her voice strengthening as she repeated, "Yes." As Nathaniel slipped the ring onto her finger, Elena realized the greatest triumph wasn't walking into a gala on the arm of a successful man. It was walking away from someone who diminished her and toward a life where she was valued for herself. The real victory was learning that she had always been enough.